Finale day! Hi, everyone. I apologize for being a few seconds late. I was being British and had to get myself a cup of tea in my own merch. But yes, today it was the finale for Percy Jackson and the Olympians. As some of you who may be subscribed to the channel know, my laryngitis came back last week, so I didn't do episode 7, so I'm doing both episodes for today's review. And I'm just breaking things down, but I wanted to do it as a live stream so I can get the thoughts of everyone here, as well on, what you're thinking of the last 2 episodes, what you're thinking of the show as a whole. I do actually have an upcoming live stream with everyone, with Unclaimed Demigod's channel, talking about the season as a whole. That'll be this Friday, I believe, over on her channel. So also we'll be talking about season as a whole at some point. But yes, just going to announce to everyone that I am live. Hey everyone, live now for Percy Jackson. And we'll just get into it. I'm going to be starting with, you know what? We're just going to get straight into spoilers. You haven't missed anything, Archangel. We're just getting started. Hello to everyone. We're just going to get into the spoilers for both episode 7 and episode 8. So if you haven't seen episode 8 yet, maybe, like this and come back later to watch. I know it'll be when the live stream isn't on anymore, but you'll get my thoughts after that. So, yeah, spoiler thoughts. Episode 7, I enjoyed. There were definitely parts about it that I have problems with, which I'll talk about when I get to the positive, negative sections. But I think episode 7 was overall a strong episode. It did have its faltering moments. I was actually watching the episode with my partner last week, and I was incredibly reactive with episode 7. I have a lot of problems with it, but I think rewatching it with today's episode, I was definitely a little bit more positive about it. Last week's episode was the one to do with going to the underworld, and the things I have problems with are the Krusty's part of the start of the episode, because Krusty's did not need to be there. The whole section was completely pointless in general anyway, because he is easily defeated. Our trio know who he is, which is, at this stage, a completely annoying continuing element of the season, where the characters just know every single person, every single monster who appears. And it leaves, the only time that didn't happen was with Echidna. And they only found out she was Echidna because she basically tells them herself. And that was, Echidna's episode for episode 4 was probably one of the strongest, alongside episode 8, which I will talk about, obviously. But them knowing monsters all the time, the fight scene in quotes with Krusty's is just generally, it was just completely unengaging, and it was a really bad way to start the episode for me, because it was so lackluster in comparison to what we have in the books, where it's the someone else just put it here from Baby Doll. Krusty was a weird thing to keep. It should have been DOA Records, I think, and wanted to call underpaid Italian suit Charon. Yes, I completely agree. The fact that they replaced Charon with Krusty's was just a really weird choice to me. I just don't fully understand that decision. And then the underworld itself was also, it was weird. I don't mind how the underworld looked. I quite liked how the underworld looked. And I think the vibes of the creepiness of the underworld worked really well. I'm not too sure how I feel about the changes. I know I've just said that I feel like episode 7 overall was good. And I think it's because it's good in connection with episode 8. On its own, it's not a strong episode. I do rank it somewhat lower. And I'll do my ranking at the end as well, actually. But I don't know, that I liked what they have with Cerberus. That was a really sweet moment. The 4 pearls thing, at the end of the day, still ended up being completely useless. There was no reason to have the 4 pearls when it's just randomly lost to Cerberus. The stakes are non-existent at this stage because the war is supposedly already happening. We don't really kind of get much of that. I think it comes to episode 7 for me showed a lot of the limitations that have come with them staying predominantly in Percy's POV, because we had moments of jumping around here and there, like when we jumped to Grover when he's with Ares in episode 5. That was a really useful moment. It helped build it. But episode 7 for me specifically kind of showed the limitations of staying in Percy's POV, because we could have had moments of the episode could have even started of the problems at camp, showing the war is starting and all this sort of stuff. There's just no urgency that's happening, and it kind of carries on from Rosom. So I'm not going to say the whole name because I feel like I'm going to get wrong. Apologies. I think I'd have liked Underworld more if I was actually able to see. Oh my god, this is such a Hollywood issue, and it drives me nuts. So like I said, I was watching the episode with my partner. We were watching it on the screen, so on TV, and then we had to swap over to my laptop because we could not see it on TV. We still kind of struggled to see it on my laptop, but we could see it a little bit better. The 4 pearls was definitely to make Poseidon more caring towards Sally. Yeah, and I'm fine with that, but the way in which the pearl is lost makes no sense. Additionally, the lack of Annabeth in episode 7 was confusing to me as well, because she just disappears. And it was because they got to the Fields of Apostle. Do not like the change to the Fields of Apostle of like people are there for regret. Every single human being in existence should be there in the fields if that's the case. But yeah, so she has to leave. It was a weird choice. Do like the Tartarus situation. It did feel like scary having Grover being pulled to this big dark pit. Like the tension was there. It was immediately lost when they announced Kronos, because in the books there's a hint of Kronos. Percy doesn't find out it's Kronos until the very, very end. And yeah, so that was someone said here from Son of Thanatos. I was really expecting to see more side characters being focused on a lot more and different points of view of everyone at camp and how the war's affected them. Yes, this is my thing. This is why I thought it was going to be so cool, because it was going to be in visual format. Because you can pull away. You can see, like, it's like to go to the Hunger Games, for example. Obviously, in the books, it's all from Katniss's POV. The movies really utilized being able to pull away and go to other people's perspectives. Like, for example, when Katniss does the three-finger salute to Rue, we go to District 11 and see the reaction of everything that happened because of Katniss's small action of her kindness. To be able to pull away from those moments, I think, is a really key thing that you need in stories that are first-person focused, because you get to see other things. And we have small moments here and there, but that is not utilized enough for me. And yeah, no, it's just, I don't know how I feel about it. I did, and there's a lot of comments I'm seeing here. Hades' actor seemed off, to be honest. Maybe something about his quirkiness. Hades was too comedic. I have to say, I actually did like Hades. I wasn't too sure of him initially when watching, but rewatching, I did really enjoy the changes that they made to Hades, because yes, he is meant to appear a lot more godlike in the books, but the whole thing was like that was a mischaracterization of him. I like that he is a lot more relaxed. I do still wish he felt more godly and powerful, but I like that he is not presented as the bad guy, because like in the books he's basically described as looking like a Yahtzee, the head Yahtzee, which was, Jesus, that was such a terrible thing to read, even like when I was reading them for the first time, which I mean I was 19, but anyway. So I'm kind of glad they didn't go down that route, because that was horrific. But I like the tone that they went for him. I don't know, I kind of like it. I don't know if it was fully executed well in terms of the script in regards to Hades, but I don't really have a problem with it. But what I do continue to have a problem with is Percy just knowing things. Like, the reveal of Kronos is my huge problem with episode 7. And when I was watching the episode, it was just driving me nuts. It's just like, this is meant to be a huge reveal alongside in episode 8 for Luke is meant to be this huge thing of kind of like, we've had hints, but this is the first time we're really seeing it. And this is also the only episode ever where we get proper dreams in regards to Kronos as well. And I really liked it. I liked that the episode started with the Kronos-based dream of them talking to the thief. But we should have had that for the entire show whenever there were dreams. Because for some reason, even in episode 8, we have like a sand-like monster. Like, who's talking to Percy. It's so weird. I don't get it. It was just strange. Oh yeah, what was it? And like they could have done something similar to Zuko alone with Luke. I don't think they should have been able to do a entire episode for Luke for episode 8, and I will talk about that more later on when we get to it. But we definitely did need a bit more for Luke. From Daniela Shooping. I still don't understand why Annabeth disappeared. I thought episode 8 would explain it, but it didn't. And then episode 8 kept the dialogue between Poseidon and Percy. Yeah, I don't get why Annabeth disappeared either. They definitely I feel like there's meant to be an explanation. Actually, hold on, I'll come back to that. But yeah, episode 7, I think it sets up well for episode 8 to a degree. Like, we find out about the helm from Hades, that the only reason why Alecto was going after Percy was because she thought he had the helm as well, and that Ares is the person behind some of it. I just really didn't like the reveal of Kronos this early. I just wasn't a fan of that. But to go to episode 8, because obviously that's more what's in the situation, and I'm going to start with Danielle's thing. I feel like the reason why they had Annabeth's, and also what Mohammed has said here, Annabeth's regret, I think they're trying to hint that her regret is not going to see her family or something. I think it's something to do with her dad. I don't really understand it, because really Grover should have been the one who had the most regret, because his entire thing has been that he's regretted, not being able to protect Talia. And that's been his whole thing. It's been brought up a few times that, he couldn't save her, and he wants to go on this quest with Percy to make up for that sort of situation, as well as we find out in episode 8, get his searcher's license. But yeah, it's not explained why Annabeth had regret. It's not explained why she disappears, and I'm gonna have to find. So I did like a whole thing that I sent to my friends of my thoughts and feedback on the show, just because I had many thoughts. So episode 8, I do think is the strongest episode. I think there's a lot about it that I think is really strong. And actually I won't do my ranking now, but episode 8 I think is the strongest episode. They've really underutilized Annabeth. Yeah, they have, 100%. And there's someone that I know who mentioned that basically they feel like maybe the reason why Annabeth is not being given more of a chance to be a character is concern from the writers, because they want to make sure they're getting Annabeth right, because the actress Leah is amazing. She's been doing an incredible job as Annabeth, but unfortunately dickheads across the internet went rabid at her casting because they're wankers, and it probably made the writers a little bit nervous and didn't really know how to find a way to present her character like she is in the books, or the way in which she needs to be in the show. Because a lot of her characterization, she basically got Ron Weasley'd, not to bring up that person's IP, but a lot of Percy's stuff in the show, of knowing the mythologies, being able to give information, is what Annabeth did in the books. So a lot of what Annabeth usually does is now done by Percy. So then Annabeth kind of ends up not really having much to do. And I don't know, it kind of just feels like they didn't know how to use her character or how to write her character. Even the relationship between her and Luke, while they develop it to a degree, it's not remotely developed in comparison to in the books, which, considering what happens later on, which I won't talk about, I'm going to stick to the lightning thief as much as possible. It's just, I don't know, it's just, I'm confused as to how they've set up the relationship. They just don't feel. Percy and Luke feel closer than Annabeth and Luke. And considering Luke kind of raised Annabeth, that's a really weird situation that they just don't feel close. And yeah, also this thing here, the fact that she was vanished for a whole episode and there was no impact of that at all. Yeah, they also don't even check in with her. I mean, she was on that beach for so long whilst Grover and Percy were in the underworld. Like, what happened? Was she there with Ares the whole time and just like they were just staring each other down silently until Percy a bit like what was going on? But to the fight with Ares. Actually, no, the thing I was starting with, because I'll get to that frustration. So we have in this episode the situation with there's the opening scenes to a degree are with Ares, but they are a flashback to Luke and Percy training together. I really liked that. I really like that we are having a training scene with it. I wish we'd had more moments like that in the earlier episodes, because a lot of what happens with Percy and Luke is them sitting down and expositioning at each other. Whereas there is expositioning, but there's movement. Previously, they're just stood together expositioning or sat down expositioning. Here they are physically moving and interacting and doing something interesting on screen whilst expositioning. So I like that. I like that they've got this development. It happens like 2 or 3 times throughout the episode. And I really, really enjoyed it. I like that they have this moment with them. The Ares fight was very underwhelming. It felt like some things, like it felt shorter than it was, that was meant to be. And I ended up watching the documentary as well. And I feel like they may have cut some scenes out. I'm not 100%, because the choreography that they showed looked like it was lasting longer than it did in the episode. But this is a recurring theme. The fight scenes are all incredibly underwhelming. Ironically, though, the fight scene with Clarice, Ares' daughter, is the most interesting fight scene in the whole season. Yeah, Annabeth is basically Ron minus the comedy. She's like Hermione, but with Ron's significance, because she's still smart, but she's not really been given much significance in this. So yeah, really enjoyed that. The fight was really good. Getting to Olympus, I mean, like, I'm fine with that. It kind of worked. I'm not too sure how I feel about the Olympus scene overall, just because it feels elements of it make sense. Lance Reddick, like, rest in peace. He is a fantastic actor, and like him as Zeus is incredible. And I like in memory of Lance at the end as well. Like, love that. But like he was so good in this episode. He played like he was kind of the first actor playing a god who felt like a god. Like, there's this aura of just intensity that doesn't feel human. Like he just gives the aura of a god. And like his whole interactions with Percy, and then even the interactions with Poseidon, he just feels like Zeus. So it was incredible to see. And like, it's sad that he's gone. Like, not even for the Zeus thing, because he's an incredible actor in general, but Lance did an incredible job. And like, we're really lucky that he was the one to bring Zeus to life first. And yeah, that whole scene was amazing. I don't like the characterization of Poseidon. And I'm going to get a bit more into that in the negatives. I know I'm kind of mostly doing like a bit of that now, but the scene beats didn't hit for me. They're getting back to camp, and the thing I will say, I love that they keep up the charade of Clarice being the red herring for an extended period of time until the reveal of Luke, because I like that. It makes sense to keep that up, because they don't actually know who it is yet, so they're going to stick with the person they think it is. It just, yeah, I really like that. Clarice being the red herring, and even having her continue to be when they get to camp and just looking rageful. It's great. The reveal of Luke, I don't know why I did that. The reveal of Luke is phenomenal. Charlie Bushnell owned this scene. Oh my god, that like I like that instead of in the book where for some reason he just attacks Percy and poisons him with like no actual explanation. I never really understood it, if I'm honest. Here he tries to recruit him. Like he full on just like, I'm trying to recruit you. You know, the gods suck, they're awful, like, but there's a reason why Cronus is the golden age, blah 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 blah. And Percy fights back saying no. You know, our parents may not be perfect, but they're, I can't remember his exact words now. I kind of understand to a degree why Poseidon was shown in a different light, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense for Percy to be against Luke. Somewhat, but I just really like Charlie and Percy scenes in episode 8 were incredible. I loved everyone. They've got such a good energy between them. Yes, they do. And I like that they developed that a lot in the show overall, but this last episode really showcased it a lot. Like the betrayal between both of them of like Percy saying no, and then Luke, so like Luke feeling the betrayal of Percy saying no, and then like the guilt in Luke's eyes when he accidentally hurts Percy as well, and the hurt in Percy's eyes when he realizes Luke is the thief and all this sort of stuff, and kind of the hurt in Annabeth's eyes when she appears, which I did not like. I will talk about that later. That whole scene was developed so well. The actors did an incredible job with that. Like Walker and Percy, Jesus, Walker and Charlie are just fantastic in that whole section. And I like that also for the book fans. So in the book, Luke does slash through the air and he's able to travel somewhere else. I like that they explain that finally, that that's an ability that Backbiter has. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they give an explanation, which we never had in the books. So I'm glad we've got an explanation of that. I feel like Clarice being accused of stealing the bolt is probably going to add more animosity that she already has for Percy. Yes, although I don't think they say out loud that they believed it was her. But maybe she got a hint of it or something. I don't know. But that whole dynamic between them, I think is going to set up, it has been set up really well for the future seasons. So I'm very, very happy with the dynamic between Luke and Percy. And like, that's just to go to the positives for these two episodes. The actors are truly kind of like the standouts of it. Like, even if the scripts aren't strong, like for episode 7 with Hades and just the moments between the characters, I don't think the character relationships that well, but the actors themselves are doing a really, really good job of bringing these characters to life. Like, Grover has the best comedy timing, and just like, he's just very funny. And like, from watching the documentary as well, like Arian himself is just naturally funny, and he brings that to the role of Grover, which I really appreciate. Like him telling Cerberus, who is now asleep because of Annabeth, that he's a bad dog for swallowing him whole. Fair enough. Also very funny. Just that Grover is just, even in episode 8 when like Percy is heading up to Olympus and Grover is kind of just like, you know, how do we know that an email won't solve this problem? Not the best joke, but Arian makes it funny. Because this is the whole thing. The script is not strong, but the actors are working well with it, and they are portraying the characters as well as they can. Arian made me into a Grover fan. Used to be very neutral on Grover. Yes, I have consistently said I've always loved Grover, but Arian is one of the standout actors for me. Because he has brought new life to Grover's character. He has made him engaging. He's made him not feel like the third wheel, as much as the script for some reason tries to. There is a moment in episode 8 where there is a Percabeth moment where Grover's just kind of stood still, gazing off into the distance, just almost like he's not glazed out, what's the word? He's what's the word? He's like in his own world. He's just frozen still behind them. That just made me chuckle because, like, yeah, that's also very Grover, but it was just such an awkward moment as well. But like, Arian just plays Grover so well. Like, he's made Grover his own, and he's made Grover interesting. And I really, really, really like that. Um, these fight scenes are way too short. Yeah, no, I'll talk about that in the negatives. But yeah, the actor Charlie in episode 8 as Luke, I think is my standout for episode 8. Like, oh, he did so good. The moment when Percy says, "I met your dad," and he just goes. Like, he goes for it. Oh, the rage. Like, he doesn't say anything. It's in his face. Like, the first thing you see before he acts is his face. And you just feel the complete, like, the bubble of rage just explode. And it's just, oh my god, it's so good. I enjoyed it so much. Charlie Bushnell is standout chef's kiss. And he just played it so well, so well. And that's why he's the standout for me in episode 8. And the actors have consistently been really well. Like, there have definitely been low moments of, the acting not being as strong. But honestly, I think that's both like a directing and writing related issue, because you got to support child actors to be able to make sure they're doing it well, and make sure that they're comfortable, etc., etc. But I do like some of the changes they've made positively for episode 7 specifically. As much as it didn't feel like it fit in episode 7, the moments between Sally and Poseidon were so good. Like, you feel the exhaustion of Sally, of someone who is raising a child who is neurodivergent, and also in this case a demigod, so always in danger, and just kind of the need just to kind of take a break with Poseidon beside her, just helping her take the load off to a degree of just letting her let it out. Really, really enjoyed that. Not too sure of the characterization of Poseidon, but really enjoyed that moment of just seeing the vulnerability of Sally. I don't get why it was in the episode. I feel like that's something that should have been, I don't know, it felt like it took away from the runtime, but outside of the episode itself, that moment was really, really good. Someone needs to make an edit of the Percy Beth moments as Grover third wheels. And there's always a duo in a trio. Yeah, someone needs to make that edit. I'm going to contact my friend Robert and tell them the damn meme page on Instagram, so they could do it. But yeah, that's. I feel really bad saying that there aren't that many positives. Well, no, actually, for episode 8, the positives are the character relationships. I definitely feel like they got back to those a little bit more in this. The trio hadn't really felt much like a trio. And it's frustrating because the trio is meant to be a trio. But they definitely get back to that a little bit more in... Actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm going to go straight into the negatives. Because I think I'm wrong about that, actually. They don't have the trio feel like the trio, because the trio are not together. Like, Grover disappears. Like, the moment they get back to camp, Grover's gone. He does not appear again until the end, when we find out he got his surgeon's license. He may appear at one point, but basically when they're back to camp, it's Annabeth, Luke, and Percy. And then we don't see Grover. And I don't know where he went. It's episode 7, we lose Annabeth. Episode 8, we lose Grover. It's kind of like they don't know how to have or how to write groups of 3. Yeah, so Ethan says here, it's interesting how episode 7 splits it into Grover and Percy duo, and episode 8 splits into Annabeth and Percy duo. Yeah, and it's even the same in the case before. Like, episode 6 is Annabeth and Percy again, and in the previous episode as well. Yeah, it's just they seem to, I don't know, they just don't seem to know how to write the 3 together. The episodes need to be slightly longer. I am going to disagree with this slightly. I don't think they need to be slightly longer. I think the season needs to be slightly longer, and the episodes themselves need to be of a similar length, because some are too short, some are like 25 minutes and some are 30 to 35. They should be sticking between 30 to 35 consistently. The scene when they hug at the end of episode 8 didn't feel earned, because are they really friends, or are we told that? Yeah, the development of the relationships are not great. I will say the thing that I don't get the most in episode 8 is why, like, at this point in time, I do not understand why Annabeth did not side with Luke. Because, well, for one, we've not seen much of their relationship, so I guess maybe we can understand it. But her mum tried to kill her. Like, she's quite, like, she heard the whole conversation about why the gods suck, basically. And she's still gone, no, this is wrong. I know Kronos is worse, but, like, honey, your mum tried to kill you, like, a couple of days ago. Because not even you embarrassed her. A boy embarrassed her, and you just didn't do anything to stop him. And you deserve to die for that, apparently. Why didn't she? Why did she not side with Luke at this point in time? Because that's the thing I don't understand. She has a reason to side with Luke currently. With the initiative 12, when Annabeth and Grover getting their adventure, they need their duo time too now. Yeah, they have not had, like, I suppose their adventure was prior to Percy arriving. Did they ever have? I don't think they do. I don't think Grover and Annabeth ever have a quest together. Except for when they were trying to get to Camp Half-Blood with Thalia. I hate saying, no, I'm saying Talia, I don't care. The one downside of the show is that the trio doesn't feel like a trio, unlike in the books. Yeah, they've not developed the relationship between the three of them as well as they could have. And like the relationship between Percy and Annabeth doesn't feel earned either. I don't know, it's just, I don't know. I don't like the characterization of Athena in comparison to Poseidon. So Poseidon is being made out to be a bit more of an okay guy in comparison to Athena, who is cold-hearted, evil, tried to kill her own child. He gives up fighting the war to save his son, doesn't tell his son that he shouldn't have been born, says that, he thinks about Sally, and gives Percy a pearl to get back to Camp Half-Blood. Like, he's showing that he cares for his son a lot. And I don't know how I feel about it, because there's a line in the book. I'm going to have to see if I can find it specifically. But it's basically, Percy basically says, where is it? He basically kind of says that he's glad that his dad, what was it? He basically said he was glad that his dad didn't show that he loved him or cared or anything like that, because would it really matter if he had, because he's still an absentee dad. It's like when an absentee dad shows up for once, you're not happy about it or like thrilled because they still didn't care previously. I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it's an interesting choice, alongside the fact of like Zeus knowing about Kronos as well, because it sets up implications for later seasons, and it's just, Annabeth should have still been mad at her mum, 100%. At the very least, the making of the show was very interesting to watch. It was interesting. I did enjoy it. I really think it should have been 10 episodes. Yes, I 100% agree. It should have been 10 episodes. I think they needed more scenes of all three together. The trio should have been together. They should have. I do not understand why they split them up for Hades, because that is a place where they needed to be together. And like, I legitimately do not understand why they aren't. We needed more of all of them, if I'm honest. We did not get anything about Annabeth's backstory. Like, we've learned, like, all we know is that she had some problems with her family and then she left. And she's blaming her stepmom for it. Again, not too sure how I feel about those implications, that it's the evil stepmother and not actually her dad that's the problem. No, it was both of them, mostly her dad. But we don't know what she's regretting. We don't really know much about her. Like, Annabeth as a character is not remotely developed. She just can't. It's definitely the writing of this show is weak for me. Episode 8, I think, is the strongest written episode. And it's because it's focusing on 3 core elements: Percy and Ares, and the revealing of the plot. Though I don't think Percy and Ares was very strong in terms of the fight. I think it was quite boring. So even that I would kind of remove. But it's the scenes with the gods in Olympus, the reveal of the overarching plot, and Percy and Luke. Those are the 2 important dynamics that it just hits so hard. Specifically, Percy and Luke. That was the strongest point of this episode. And that character relationship is the strongest character relationship in the show. Percy and Luke are the strongest and more developed relationship than Grover and Percy, who are meant to be best friends, and Annabeth with them, who they're not meant to be best friends at this point in time, but they're meant to be friends. But I believe the friendship of Percy and Luke more than I do between Percy and Annabeth, or even Percy and Grover, because how episode 1 starts is Grover, dobbing him in and getting him kicked out of school. Like, I don't know, it's just, yeah. Like what Son of Thanatos says, if my dad was a deadbeat, showed up, I still wouldn't care or be indifferent because he never bothered to be part of my life beforehand. Yeah, and they kind of show that, Poseidon's a good guy. He just can't be around because he's not allowed to be. Like, there's a sympathetic angle that's given to Poseidon. Is Riptime's name ever revealed on the show? I don't think so. Now that I'm saying it, I don't think they ever call her Riptide. So I'm not too sure. Percy in the book says something that would feel unnatural for Poseidon to show emotions, which makes sense because he's literally thousands of years old. Why would he act like a human? Yeah. In the multiple interviews they've done, Walker, Leo, and Arian have really good chemistry and feel like they're really great friends. Yeah, I agree. I enjoy it. And I think the actors themselves have really good chemistry. I just don't think the script is written well enough to showcase that strength of chemistry. Like, there is chemistry between the cast and how they're working well together. It's just not being presented well. Episode 2, Annabeth is pushing him in the water. Episode 3, he's choosing her for the quest. It makes sense the reasons for why he's choosing her. And by the end of episode 3, episode 4, they're friends. The cave scene was so funny. Okay, so this may be controversial. Not like I'm not usually controversial. I did not like it. Because for me, Gabe did not deserve that. I know he did it to himself. But that being our end scene, that was so disappointing. I was like, we could have had something. We could have had something so cool. Like, I'm gonna have to see if I can find it. Because I had like an idea of what the end scene could have been. Because the whole thing is, I know they're not guaranteed for a season 2, but to have the end credit be basically kind of what was in the movie, just to say this is basically almost beat for beat what happened in the end credit scene for the movie. They could have had something that was like, that would get people talking. And the whole thing I thought was, what they could have had the end credit scene be was Luke stepping out from where he'd cut the hole onto something and meeting Chris, the camp half-blood member who we know joins him, who asks him basically what happened. And we get like this like angry look from Luke and says something like, we're going to war, and just pull out and we see the Princess Andromeda. Or just not even showing the Princess Andromeda, just have it end on Luke. Have it end on this tension of like, oh damn, what's coming next? Like, Luke is we know Luke is dangerous. Even if the fight for some reason, like, Percy got the upper hand. I know he beat Ares, but like, Ares is, he's full of himself. He'll make mistakes. Luke doesn't. He shouldn't be able to make mistakes. But I don't know, I don't know how I feel, but I didn't like the end credit because I thought we would get some. To end on Gabe just feels anticlimactic. I wanted it to end on something dramatic, like Luke appearing somewhere after, like, because he did dramatically exited. Where did he go? That'd be a cool end credit, and also sets up for season 2, which would have people talking and theorizing. Hopefully the second season improves on many aspects that the first season failed to expand on. Yeah, and admittedly, I admit that first seasons are usually the weakest, because especially for fantasy shows, because they have to set up so much information for world building, etc. A dramatic end credit would be so good. Yes, I want drama. A cool end credit scene could have been them coming back to the ending shot of the window as Percy and Sally go to school, and it zooms in to see Annabeth taking off her cap by the window. Oh, that'd be so cool. Yeah. Although Frederick is not portrayed on screen, he seems to be a pathetic, loving dad. The man plans on taking her to Disney World tour and a tour in New York. Yeah. The whole thing is they're not showcasing. This is the thing I have. They're not showing that Frederick sucks, and like he is worse, in my opinion. I know Gabe in the books is like abusive, but what Frederick does to me, I consider to be objectively worse to a degree, because he neglects emotionally and physically a child, makes it known that he did not want her, and leads to her running away at 7 years old. Well, 6/7. But it's not fully known if she leaves at 6 or at 7. But yeah, it's just we should have got to see. Well, no, because that's not till the next summer, so it wouldn't make sense for him to poison it yet, because that's a year away. The scene with Zeus and Poseidon speaking ancient Greek was awesome, though. Yes, okay, I will say that the intro to just briefly, the moments between Poseidon and Zeus were fantastic. Toby Stephens and Lance Reddick bouncing off each other like that was really, really good. I really appreciated that. And I think it set up a lot of their character, I think, of Zeus being this bullheaded, like, angry dude, and Poseidon being a lot more chill. I still don't like Poseidon, but it's just, yeah, it's a situation. Actually, I'm just going to take this all off and just keep it to spoilers. But overall, I think it's, for future, less exposition, longer fight scenes, and longer. Again, I don't think longer episodes. I think you can stick to 35, 30 minutes, but just all of them be around that benchmark. Oh no, I've just read that one. Jake, I really need you to stop. You need to stop. You need to kind of get over the idea of making people look like their characters. It's just calm down, Jesus. It's basically the end credit scene from the movie. Yeah, and it's just Lance and Toby had this sort of brotherly energy, which I love. Yes, it was. I really, really liked it. I don't like the dialogue of what was going. I like the dialogue between them. I don't like the implications of Zeus being aware of Kronos and knowing that history repeats and stuff like that, because it's a problem. Well, it's not a problem. They may be sorting things out later on or just adjusting the plot, but I wasn't too sure on the implications of that. But the casting has consistently been really good. I've not really had a problem with any actor at all in the show. They've all really, really hit the mark with how they are portraying the characters, and just how they're portraying what's being given to them. I do feel like some of them have had weaker moments, not because of the actors, but because the script has not worked for them or worked in service of them, which is really frustrating. From Ethan, I love the representation of immigrant/mixed family dynamics with Zeus and Poseidon speaking ancient Greek to talk about family drama so the kid doesn't understand it. I did not even think of that, but I love that. And honestly, what I would really, really love, and I want that dynamic to stay there, but what would have made that work so much better is kind of what happens in the books, where they mention the word father in ancient Greek, and Percy somewhat understands the word, but doesn't fully understand the implications, which is, stop. Why does Percy know about Kronos? That's the thing that annoys the hell out of me. because that would make this scene work so much better. It's the two of them arguing because they get the sense that something to do with Kronos is happening, but Poseidon believes it, Zeus doesn't want to believe it. And so they're then arguing in ancient Greek, and Percy understands some of it. I don't know why the hell his mum taught him ancient Greek, so why did he get it? So don't have that. But them arguing with it, so it has this immigrant mixed family dynamics with Zeus and Poseidon, and the reason why is so Percy doesn't understand what they're saying. Yeah, even in Manuel Miranda, I didn't hate the casting; it's been fantastic. Yeah, Ethan, you're so right. Yeah, no, like it's well said, Ethan. That's a really, really good point. I really appreciate that point. Despite my disappointments of this season, I'm still going to binge the episodes probably later this week. Yeah, this is the whole thing. This is what I've been told, is that the binging of the episodes helps them feel stronger. And I didn't get to do that today because I've had to do other stuff, but I did watch episode 7 and 8 together, and they did feel like they complemented each other better. I still do feel the problems in episode 7, but by watching episode 8 immediately, I don't feel the frustrations of how the episode ends. So I feel like that's going to be the situation here as well. I think just going forward with how it's going to happen, like for season 2, because they are currently writing scripts for season 2, even though they've not been renewed yet. I just think they need more writers in the writers' room, and in complete no offense to Rick, don't let him write. At least scripts. He can write books. He's a fantastic book writer. The episodes he wrote, I think, are the weakest ones. Or at least, like, episode 1 and 2 are the ones he wrote for. Pretty much the two of the weakest episodes. And I think it was Lotus Casino was the other one he wrote for. I don't remember now. No, not Lotus Casino. The Love Park Ride one. Which I do think was a good episode. I do think it had weaker dialogue moments. And both of those 3 episodes have some of the weakest dialogue. He wrote episode so episode 5, yeah. So that is the Love Boat Ride. And yeah, so I think his dialogue, I think they need to have a screenwriter and bring more screenwriters in. So yeah, I think they just need to bring in some more screenwriters, develop the story. Yeah, he co-wrote the episodes. I think he didn't write any on his own, but I don't know, and again, it's no offense to him, but I just don't think Rick should be writing it. I think he should be a story consultant, but I don't think he should have co-written any of the episodes because he's not a screenwriter. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah, just get more screenwriters, and I think that'll help. Because also maybe not having co-written episodes, because no, co-written episodes do work well. But episode 8, for example, was a solo written episode, and it was one of the strongest ones. I do know last week's episode was also solo written, and it was good, but it wasn't as strong as it could have been. But I feel like there may have been some limitations of some kind, like Annabeth disappearing. I don't know if it was like a story choice or if like maybe Leah couldn't be available one day or something. I'm not 100%. But yeah, I don't know. They just, more writers are always useful, or at least not necessarily people to write the scripts, but for people to be in the writer's room to discuss and help fine tune the episodes and stuff. I don't know. There's just, yeah, same Guapa. And I apologize if I said that wrong. There's a difference between writing a script for TV and a book. Rick should advise rather than write the script. Exactly. Like, I'm a book writer and a screenwriter. They're freaking hard, dude. Like, they're so hard to write differently. And like, I've been writing books for so long, and I've gone back to writing scripts recently because I'm doing one for my dissertation. Oh, it's hard. It's so hard. And like, I love writing scripts, but it's just such a different medium. It's so different. And I enjoy both of them on their own. It's just, there's just so many differences, and so many things that are like For books, you do, and for scripts, you do not do. Otherwise, it makes the script bad. Like, exposition dumps in books obviously aren't great, but can happen and aren't bad if they happen necessarily. If you do it in a script, not good. Not good at all. There are ways, though, to make the script work for expositions. You just have to write it into the script. And they did it in this episode, in episode 8 specifically, where they have a flashback to an exposition dump of the movement of how to fight to lead up to the fight with Ares. It's not technically an exposition dump of a kind, but there's an exposition dump happening in that section of Luke training Percy. And as he's talking, he's explaining things about, the gods, about fighting, etc. And while it's not as bad as the early exposition dumps, because the reason why it's not bad for the early exposition dumps is, firstly, it doesn't last too long, but also there's an active movement in the scene, which you need to write into the script. I kind of really want to physically see the scripts for the episodes at some point. But anyway, Rick would be best used in a consulting dramaturg type of role to focus on bringing the spirit of the... I agree. Sorry, that's from Ethan. Son of Thanatos. The problem with binging is that people just run through the whole series in one go, and then we are angry that there are no more episodes. Yeah, I think the episodic nature was for the better. If I'm honest, I wish they released them in 2-episode chunks, because 2-episode chunks. Yeah, some episodes I think work better following after the other. Episode 1 and 2 work well as a duo. Episode 3 I think is fine on its own. Episode 4 and 5 work better together. Episode 6 and 7 work better as a duo, and then episode 8 works on its own as well. I know that leads to like a weird release schedule, but I think that would have been the best way to do it, because it would have led to less frustration with like follow-ons from the episodes. Rick's my favorite author, but I feel like he should just basically be an advisor. Yeah, and again, it's no offense to Rick, but it should have been done similar to how they adapted One Piece, I believe. Yes, I brought this point up, not here, but it's just someone else earlier. Oda, I think, I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong. Oda, who is the writer for One Piece and the creator of One Piece, was a consultant for the One Piece live action. He didn't write any episodes. He was just a story consultant. And that's what Rick should have been. He should have been a story consultant. Sorry, I got way too excited about that, because I was like, yes, validation. Son of Thanatos. The problem is that he knows only how to write books, but doesn't kind of understand how to do things for a TV show. He even admitted in an interview. Yeah, and I'm just like, Rick, if you know it, you shouldn't have done it. I know I'm being like super harsh on Rick, but like, sometimes you like, they had 6 writers, 5 of whom are professional writers for the screen. If they were only going to have 6 writers, the 6th one should have been another professional screenwriter. This is a thing as well in general. I do feel like the comedy didn't always hit as well. Like, the thing that I mentioned for episode 8 is Grover has that line of like, can you send them like a, an email? Like, wouldn't that be a possibility? Because he just doesn't want Percy to go. The joke itself is like, Arian pulls it off, but I think the joke itself fell a bit flat. And I think that was the case for a lot of the jokes within the show. And like, I don't know, it's just, that happens in the book sometimes as well. I'm not saying Rick wrote those things, but there's just like, having more writers who have more diverse backgrounds of writing of scripts. So like having people who've worked in comedy before, having people who've worked in drama before, having people who've worked on kids' films or TV shows before. Because I think from the list, and I looked at the writers previously, and I think only 2, maybe 3 of them have written for children's media before. It may have only been 2, actually, because I know Joe Trax, who is also the writer for the musical, he also wrote for A Series of Unfortunate Events, which is children's media, does have comedy in it. And his, I think, was episode... Well, I don't remember now, actually. But, I don't know, there's just... the writer's room is where it's at. The directors, I think, did really well. Specifically, Jet Wilkinson, I think she was fantastic. She is also the director for episode 8. She did an incredible job. I really liked the way in which she directed. But yeah, I think that's the thing to improve going forward. Will be in the writer's room, and again, just getting really good directors. But overall, like, I have my problems with the show, but episode 8, I think, has solidified that I've got more grace for the show, I suppose. I think with how episode 8 ended, though it didn't save the whole show for me, I think the whole show is very weak. Episode 8 has left me feeling optimistic for how season 2 could go, because there's a lot of things that are set up here for season 2. I just think that they need to look back on, some of the things that people have brought up and bring that forward. There is, from Baby Doll, there is so much potential for this series. And episode 8 and episode 3 for me, the Medusa episode, I think, and episode 4 with Echidna, even if I didn't like the making Percy sick, because there was no explanation for that. Those 3 episodes for me specifically showed the potential for this show. I just feel like they're just going to need a bit more of a budget, more writers, more directors, maybe, because they did only have 3 directors. And honestly, maybe using physical sets as well, because they didn't film that much on location, which I know for like fantasy heavy, using the volume works, but I think using physical sets can also help a little bit more for the acting side of stuff. Kind of like what they did in One Piece as well. And what was the other thing I was going to say? And I don't know, I don't think they have to stick to the source material, but keep the energy of the source material. I feel like a lot of the characters have kind of lost themselves to a degree. It just may be that they just need to plan things out so much more, like plan for the whole season. I think of what the next seasons are going to be and write the scripts according to how that's going to go. Because some of the things that have happened in season 1, I feel like are going to cause problems for how future books are going to go. But that is a conversation for next week, where I will be doing a season 2 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians theory video with Unclaimed Demigod here on YouTube. So keep an eye out for that. I'm also going to be doing a bunch of theory videos related to the TV show in general, of various different things. So keep an eye out for that. So if you are new here, be sure to subscribe. Check out my books. I've written various books. I also have a Celtic mythology book coming out sometime this year. I don't have a date yet. So keep an eye out for that. And for the people who may be watching later on, or even who are watching now, be sure to leave comments in the comment section about what you thought of these 2 episodes, but also of the season as a whole. And again, I will be talking about the season as a whole over on Unclaimed Demigod's channel this Friday, I believe, so be sure to check that out. And thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun, especially getting you guys' thoughts as well. And I appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you so much, and I will see you in season 2, hopefully. We'll see.